coming up here soon is a holiday we call Anzac Day. Anzac is an acronym for Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, and it's a day of remembrance for honouring and remembering fallen troops in wars of the past, mainly World War I and II, but it's not exclusively for those particular wars or those particular fallen troops. Now, it's very rare that a calendar date, and I say calendar date in this sense not to belittle the holiday, I think it's an important time, it's an important thing to think about. It's shrouded in a lot of controversial perspectives, you could say, but it's very rare that such a holiday is also close to a seasonal holiday, because most holidays that we celebrate here are completely offset by 6 months, because people follow the Gregorian calendar rather than the seasons, and a lot of our traditions and festivities and holidays are actually seasonal. So the seasonal holiday that is coming up is Halloween, or Samhain, whatever you want to call it, which of course is much to do with honouring and remembering our dead ancestors. There's a lot to do with that. Now, obviously it's not exactly the same, but you can see that clear overlap between the Anzac Day and the Halloween holiday. So this has inspired me to talk about something that I think got to do with the afterlife and the dead. And I want to talk about Folkvangr, one of the afterlife destinations. I've spoken about it briefly in another video in contrast with Valhalla and Hell. I don't want to talk too much about those two. I want to focus on Folkvangr and just elaborate a little bit more on what I believe this to be. It's a very literal interpretation, and I don't think this is not one of the times where the myths or the stories are meant to be read into too much. I think this is a very surface level interpretation, and I think that's all that's really warranted. Now, I got a pretty basic interpretation of much of the afterlife. I think I wouldn't say it's atheistic, but here goes anyhow. Folkvangr literally translates to folk field, people's field. And it is said that half of those who die in battle go to Valhalla with Odin to honour Odin, and then the other half go to Folkvangr in honour of Freya. Now, I've mentioned in the past video about this that I think half and half is a figure of speech. I think it's a way of saying some go here and some go there. And I think who goes where is a matter of practicality and ability in order to actually physically transport people's dead bodies back home. It's not practical for everyone's body to make it home for a proper burial in hell, the hole under the ground, the grave, or Valhalla, the chosen, it's literally chosen hall or hole, which is really just like a more highly venerated grave, so someone of much higher status. But I'm not going on about that. It's about Folkvangr, and I've said before and I'll say again, I think Folkvangr is literally the place where those go when they die in battle. They die in the field and they remain in the field, the folk field, the field of all these dead. Now, I want to reinforce this idea and why I think this, based on why it's got to do with Freya. What is Freya? Who is Freya, and what does she have to do with? Freya is a fertility goddess. Yeah, she is Vanir. She has much to do with life and production of new growth, right? So how is the Folkvangr, the dead that go to Folkvangr, how is that in honour of Freya? Well, it's very simple in a way, if we think about it. Leaving the dead in the field leaves something for nature to feed on, for the crows, for all the wild animals to come and feast upon the dead. It's not really necessarily any less of an honour, other than the fact that you might not have anything taken home to remember you by. In the modern day, it might be something like dog tags or something to that effect, but not the whole body. So in the way that we are left in the field, or they are left in the field, is an offering to Freya, in that it's much like blood and bone is a compost contribution to the earth, to the field, for new life to grow from. It's very much an honour in a way. So that's how it is in relation to being an offering to Freya. Now, I think that's very relevant to the kind of remembrance that we have for Anzac Day, remembering rather those who died away from home and never returned. The fallen troops that we think about in Anzac Day, they died and went to Folkvangr. They fed Freya. They were offerings to Freya, rather. That's how I look at it. That's my interpretation of it. So I could talk a bit more about Valhalla and Hell, and I might do that in another video, but not in this one. Need to spend a little bit more time talking about the less popular things. There's a lot to be learned from the deities and the things that are in the shadows of the higher gods and conversation topics. So that's what I think Folkvangr is. I think it's pretty hard to refute. I don't know. I've never heard any other opinions about Folkvangr. So if you think that I'm wrong, or you've got something better to offer, please share it, because I'd be interested to hear it. So there we have it, and I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening.